Welcome to the Legends of Kansas podcast. My name is Brandon McAnderson. This show is on Kansas Nation and features Ring of Honor member, Super Bowl champion Chris Harris Jr. What's up, Chris?
What's up, my man? How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. I'm, nothing to complain about here. You know, digesting this Kansas Missouri thing and feeling good about the team, feeling good about some of the things that I saw, but feeling like they came up a little short when they could have won that one, man.
Definitely had a great chance of winning that game, and it's always tough on the road, but it was definitely a winnable game, man. We had opportunities, we were up, and you got to be able to take advantage of those opportunities and finish the game.
So, Chris, let's catch up on you first. What you got going on, man? What's your life going on? What you got going on, man?
Yeah. Now, man, just taking care, make sure the family's good. Also training kids. I just started my program, the CSJ Elite, in which we got about 150 kids in Tulsa, in which we work on mentoring, everything, financial literacy, everything it takes to be able to succeed in this life, trying to build, the next generation of the community leaders. And so we just started that. We've been doing that for the last 5 months, and also mentoring, guys, NFL, college, and guys going into college with this crazy world, with the NIL and everything. Being able to be a big brother and a mentor for a lot of these guys and also train them, I think it's been pretty fun. Because having 5 girls is hard, man, to find that time. But I'm being able to find a niche where I can try to be very influential in my kids' life right now, and then also be able to still be able to help the youth. So I do want to coach bad, and get to that, and getting those games for sure. I definitely miss it. But it's just right now in this time period, my kids need me the most for sure.
Absolutely. And you keep that servant's mentality, opportunity to
Yeah.
serve people that are looking to fulfill a dream that you've already been through. So, I mean, there's no one
Yeah.
better to talk to about these ins and outs and the NIL stuff and the business side. Like the business side is what
Yeah.
you lived as an NFL player. So no one can
Right.
give better advice than you on that. And I love what it's doing. I love seeing the kids get paid. And I love that they have mentors in place like you that can help push them forward. So let's get to that Missouri game. Watching the game in person, being in Columbia, Missouri, hoping that I never have to go back. That's just in general. I thought that the game in person, you looked at the numbers and you started to look at the way it felt like, man, they kind of beat up on us. Watching that game on film, that was not the experience I had. I thought that the defense was very productive and competitive up front. There were plays to be made that they didn't quite make, and we'll get into that later. But I thought they were more competitive, athletic, and a little bit more force, playing a little bit more force than they have in the past few years. I thought the schematics were clean. I liked what they tried to do.
Yeah.
Offensively, they didn't have a great rhythm that first half, time of possession thing got out of whack. And as you know, like in a football game, it's the hardest thing to recover from. When you
Right.
have that level of fatigue, you lose your rhythm on offense because you're not playing your defense. Now, I mean, this is a defense that plays 22 guys. They needed all 22 because there was a lot of football to be played on that afternoon. But they pushed through,
Yeah.
found ways, got a lead at the end, really had a chance to win and felt like they could win at every moment of the game against an SEC opponent that's won 12 straight at home, is 21-4 against non-conference opponents since they had that new head coach. This team doesn't lose there, and Kansas really put them to the brink. Just describe your experience watching the game and
Yeah.
what you saw.
I mean, they came out. I think Missouri scored first, right? They came out high
Yes.
to the field goal, and then us being able to jump out 14-7, and really come out. Really, I think we scored. We were up 21-7, right? I
Yeah,
think that's what it was.
21-6.
21-7, 21-6. So being able to come out that fast, we got to be able to maintain that lead. And I think tackling, we had an issue. Also, with our outside linebackers, we struggled there, even with our nickels and our safeties. I think Missouri really attacked the middle of the field, and they attacked us with their tight ends. Our corners, I thought they played very well. I thought our
Yes.
corners played. If you got to say somebody on the defense who played good, you got to say the corners played good, right? Other than a couple, I would say the nickel, he had to miss, not the outside guys, right? The outside guys played solid. But inside, like you said, we have enough beef and enough mass up there and with those guys to be able to fight with those guys in the SEC. So I think we'll do fairly well in the Big 12 competition. But I'm worried about the outside linebackers. I'm not worried about number 4, right? He was everywhere. I'm not worried about him. I'm worried about his counterpart, the nickel, and the safeties, because when you watch the game, Missouri attacked us up the middle a lot.
Yes, they did. And I mean, Trey Lathan was incredible. Number 4. My first experience with him was at West Virginia when he got 10 tackles against us. So it's nice to see him on our team getting 13 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, pass defense. I mean, he is an incredible player. I mean, incredible player. When I think about linebacker at the University of Kansas, it's been a decade since we've had somebody of that talent level. And, Bengali Kamara, a guy that was not expected to play, pretty much produced at as good a level as you could expect. 9 tackles, half sack, 2 tackles for loss, another pass defense, and he was on one leg. So I think you're looking at 2 big time college football players and Trey Lathan and Bengali Kamara. I don't see a single reason why those guys won't be first team all Big 12 contention by the end of the season, because the numbers they're putting up, just the counting stats relative to what you're seeing. Bengali is like a magician on the edge, man. He's impossible. I mean, he had 3 blocks against. He had 3. His 2 tackles for loss were against a tight end that didn't even touch him when he beat him. So I mean, just talk about those 2 players and how different they've been from what we've had and the expectations you see for them moving forward.
I mean, starting with the middle linebacker, right? He's a guy that's fast. I think he can cover. He's kind of what the NFL is looking for, guys that can play all 3 down linebackers. And he's physical at the point of attack. I just like it. I love the way he plays every week, and he's definitely been an impact player. And then when we have guys off the edge like an Austin Booker in the past, you got to have those playmakers off the edge, and especially when you got to match a Missouri, which they're going to bring in depth. And I said that before. I said that on Friday. That when you play against the SEC team, the difference between us and them probably right now is that they got more guys to roll in, and that's probably what we've seen. And those guys just got to continue to be impact players on this defense, continue to lead the team, and I think they will. It starts really with number 4. As long as he continues to make plays, continues to swarm the football and lead that way, I'm pretty sure everybody will follow him.
Yeah, Trey Lathan just has a physicality to him. I love the way he just picked up that tight end on a couple of occasions, just dumped him on his head. Talk about 6'5", 245, 250-pound tight end. He had no problem pushing him around, moving him around. Leroy Harris Jr. Leroy Harris III came off the bench at number 33. His physicality and presence, and what I love about him. So one of the things that Kansas has struggled with on the previous regime under Coach Leipold, scrambling quarterbacks. They had a hard time being able to be athletic enough to protect the inside gaps, to keep those funnels closed, and still be fast enough to run outside if he escaped. Leroy Harris has no such problem. I mean, he was manhandling tackles, getting rid of them, able to kind of mirror the quarterback. And you're talking about a guy that's 6'5", 260 pounds, Chris, was playing at Chattanooga, and he might be one of the top 5 players on our defense right now. Talk about what you saw from Leroy and some of those interior defensive linemen, guys like Keenan Caldwell, who, if the guy plays 20 plays, it seems like he'll have 20 tackles. Tommy Dunn Jr., DJ Withers. Just talk about that defensive line depth, guys like Leroy and those guys outside.
I really can't say the D-line played bad, right? Because most of the runs, if you really think about it, they popped on the outside. And so the guys up front in the middle, I think they did solid. They was definitely getting some pushback, and they got a couple of TFLs, and so only thing I would say is that we got to just get better with the pass rush inside, being able to push the pocket into the quarterback's face, and then have a better team plan as for some of these scrambling quarterbacks. That quarterback scrambled a little bit, but
it didn't kill us with it.
It didn't really hurt us too much, but we're going to see more athletic quarterbacks coming up soon. So that's something I see we got to work on. But run defense I thought was solid up front. We got to be able to probably have a little bit cleaner edges and be able to fill the holes a lot better with the outside linebackers, nickels, and the safeties. and that's something I think they can clean up going into the rest of the season.
Yeah, getting ready for Big 12 play. I think you're seeing what you would want to see. You're seeing what a ceiling for this team could be. Looking at what Fresno State's doing to everyone else. Fresno State's a pretty good football team. They beat up
Yeah,
on Georgia Southern. They got another win this week, and we made it look easy against a pretty good team. So I think this Kansas team, regardless of this loss, is on pace to be what I thought they could be based on the offseason. So let's get into the three things that caught my attention. So far, we've talked mostly about defense because we have a future Hall of Famer here and a Ring of Honor member that knows defense. But let's move over to the offensive side of the football. Watching that game, the first thing you think is, man, we got to be able to run the football. And that's true. You got to be able to run the football, especially on the road if you want to win a football game. The reasons that we couldn't run were different than I thought they would be. We ran some man schemes and it didn't work. I'm just going to be honest with you. When that guard was pulling around to those edge players, they were punishing them. And if you can stop the flow of that counter and the guy that's made for the backer can't get around, that play's dead. So there was a couple times where we ran that play and they kind of just blew it up. What was surprising to me was how successful we were on offense. I mean, if you look at the yards per play numbers in this game, they're frightening because
right.
if you take away some of if we just start from the beginning, you're talking about a 10 play 70-yard drive. So essentially their first 26 plays on offense, they went for 203 yards, Chris. That is 7.8 yards per play. 7.8 yards per play. They were not being stopped. So
Right.
you would move to and think, oh, okay, so what are the things that were keeping it from getting there? So you throw in that essentially they had the drop on third down late in the game when they had a chance to advance the ball. They had the 5-play, 11-yard drive where Jalen missed E-man deep and then got some pressure, missed him on the sideline. So those plays basically combined for about eight plays for 14 yards. So if you take away those plays, you take away the fumble that was the minus 25, and you take away the 3 for 7 that ended the half. So essentially, plays were, and I only emphasize those because I thought those drives were the most indicative of our mistakes, not what they forced us to do. You think about the
Right.
drop, you think about the missed throw downfield with no pressure. I'm excluding those because I feel like those were self-inflicted. You talk about the fumble with JD, Bryce Foster tripped, the guy he was supposed to block now is unblocked, and it ended up going not so good for us. But before I continue on this yards per play thing, I want to say something about JD. Our fan base has a tendency to react negatively to him when he fails doing something spectacular and celebrates when he's successful doing something spectacular. And what I would say to you is that you cannot be so excited about him juking 6 guys and moving out to the right and throwing a 45-yard rope and feel like that he can't do the thing when he fumbles and costs us and costs the team in a big moment. That's the Jalen Daniels experience, Chris. You've been around these big time playmakers. You got to let them cook. And sometimes they're going to make mistakes. And at the end of the day, no one wants to make a mistake less than that guy, but he did it.
Right.
And that's part of what he is. Part of what makes him special is his creativity. And that's something that deserves support. That's something that deserves celebration. Just talk about what you've seen
Yeah.
from his creativity and his playmaking ability.
I thought he gave us everything he could, with the run game being non-existent, he's used to having somebody get, back there running the ball, having Devin Neal, the past 4 years,
Mm-hmm.
Our run game's been non-existent, if we just being honest. And it's putting all the load and all the pressure on Jalen Daniels to keep us in the game on the road at Missouri. And I think he did that. He did the best he could. Of course, you wish he could make that throw to Henderson, and that would have been a huge play. But when we needed to make a score and come back, he pretty much did that damn near every time, right?
Yes.
So, and so you can't really put this game on Jalen. You got to put this game more on the defense. I think did they give over 500 yards? It was
Yes.
giving over 500 yards is way too much. So, and then not having a run game, non-existent. So I love the way Jalen played. He did whatever he could to be able to give us a chance to win the game, and that's all you can ask for.
Yeah, and I mean, we talked about the defense and where they struggled, but if you looked at some of these yards per play numbers, our yards per play are significantly higher than their yards per play. If you think about it, you watch that Missouri game, 15 play drives, 17 play drives, 12 play drives. That's what a defense is making you earn it. And a lot of that
Yeah.
was, if they could have made plays, they could have gotten off the field, and they didn't do that. So, they don't, you don't get to have it both ways, because they could have gotten off the field by making a couple of those plays. But to their credit, they just kept winning. They kept winning up front. And I think the microcosm of the game was our first third down on the opening drive. We have a 3rd and 1. It's a handoff to Daniel Highshaw. Josiah Trotter bursts through the line, tackles Highshaw for a loss. We end up punting. The first 3rd and 3 for Missouri, Bengali Kamara breaks through the line, unblocked, and he missed a tackle. And that is the game. It is the same exact play, the same exact play. One team made the play, one team did not make the play. And when you're at the precipice of this moment, you understand that. You understand the importance of that. You're talking, you're watching and listening to two guys that experienced this in 2007 against Missouri, where it wasn't a mismatch. They didn't dominate us. We couldn't execute when we really needed to, and they did. And that sometimes happens in football, and that's what you saw with some of these things. But let's take a deeper dive into the numbers, because I told you about the yards per play on offense, where if their first 29 plays went for 210 yards, that's 7.2 yards per play. The next 30 went for 185 yards, that's 6 yards per play. So I mean, the offense had success at all times, even without a running game. Even without a running game, they were continuously able to have success moving the tight ends around. I thought their tight end group was awesome. You saw some versatility with Brune and Grun, and Deshaun Hannica's the highest rated tight end in college football right now. And you see why. He's been unguardable, fast, tall, physical, and gets the stuff done in the blocking game. Just talk about those tight ends, what you liked about them, and how this offense, I like how they just, tight ends are tough to deal with, especially for a DB, especially from your eyes. They test your eye discipline. Just talk about what you saw from that group.
I mean, definitely Hanica. He definitely stood out, being open all game, being able to find the zones and be at a safety net for Jalen all week. I mean, all weekend. And we just need some more, connection on the outside, really. If he connects those balls with Henderson, and get him a little bit more going earlier in the game, I think that'll kind of soften up the D-line, or soften up the linebackers in the secondary. Then we can get the run game going. But the tight ends played great, man. They were definitely the mismatch versus Missouri. Missouri had no guys for them, and Jalen was able to find them all day game long. So Hanica definitely stood out, and he's making a name for himself for sure.
Now, part of the O-line stuff, with the blocking and run game, you could chalk part of the run game up to not having possession of the football, not being able to get the rhythm. So you can chalk some of the run game up to guys not making the plays they should have made when they could have made them. So that's true.
Yeah.
However, what's also true is Missouri could not get pressure with 4 defensive linemen. They could not get pressure with 4 defensive linemen. A lot of their pressure, they got some pressure at the end of the game on true pass situations. But if you're talking about through the course of the game, especially that third quarter, our offensive line locked up. There was not any type of pressure on Jalen Daniels. I thought that was an incredible sign for this offensive line moving forward, because what we've seen from JD, Chris, is that if you're going to rush 4, he's going to kill you. And if you can't get pressure with 4, Kansas is going to be super hard to defend.
And our O-line did solid in the pass game.
Yes,
right? But when you can't run the football, and Missouri stuck to their game plan, what they do? They kept running the football, kept running. Might get 2 yards, might get 3 yards, but then boom, pops a 50, right? And that's what they just kept doing. They stayed consistent to that game plan. And with a guy like Jalen Daniels, we got to have a run game, right? We got to possess the football. We got to find a way to get our defense some type of rest, right? We can't live in this big play, scheme. Even though, like you said, we had success, we had a lot of yardage, right, per play, right? But also, our defense couldn't get off the field, and they drained out, right?
Yeah.
And so that we got to be able on the road. We got to be able to run the football. That's going to eliminate JD from making those turnovers. He threw the pick at the end because he's been stressing and carrying the team pretty much, the whole game. So the O-line did solid in the pass game, but we got to find a way to get these guys and be able to possess the ball more with the run game. And how do you do that? You got to convert third downs, right? We got to be a better third downs offense, so we can possess the play clock more and be able to run the football.
Absolutely. Now let's a stat from Derek Johnson that I thought was a good indication of what we talked about. with our defensive front. Derek Johnson shared this stat. Offensive line yards per carry for Kansas was 1.25, meaning the offensive line was blocking for 1.25 yards before the running back made contact. The Missouri number, 1.65. So that means that Kansas defense was winning just as much as Missouri's defense, except they were not getting guys on the ground. I mean, that is the clearest indication. If you give up over 200 yards rushing and the offensive line yards per play blocked were 1.65, that means you missed a lot of tackles. And that ended up being the case in this game, just not being able to get guys on the ground. And that's kind of been the early theme of the season. You know, they had the Fresno State drive. The Fresno State game, they were pretty much perfect, except for the drive where they missed a lot of tackles. And then, you know, Wagner was whatever. But then this game, you see the missed tackles start to rear its head again. What kind of things would you like to see? You know, because this is as good of a coaching staff as you'll see. You know, they'll be locked in on the bye week on teaching technique. What kind of things are you wanting to see when we step into Big 12 play to show you that there's a more attention to detail, more urgency in getting guys on the ground?
Being able to tackle on those edges, right? We had too many busts, too many, you know, times with the running back is just steamrolling fast, not going off his, what do y'all call that, landmark? Is that what y'all call it, D-Mac?
Yeah.
You know?
Yes, sir.
And the guy's rolling, right? And when you give a good running back with speed like that, he can get outside. And those guys from Missouri were doing that. And we got to be better tackling from everywhere. You know, what's the kid, Coleman? Slot receiver. I mean, he killed us off a yak. Right, we get this guy down. You know, that would eliminate a lot of the 500 yards that y'all gave up. So, out of all that yards, you know, probably off missed tackles, you probably got 300 yards, right? So, if we can eliminate that and be able to, you know, tackle better, defense automatically be better.
Absolutely, and you just to mention it, you're talking about their 4-play 84-yard drive right before halftime, missed tackle at the line of scrimmage on the long run. That was a 40-yard run. Then the pass to Coleman, there was 2 missed tackles right at the point of attack. That ended up being an 84-yard drive simply off of missed tackles. That last touchdown drive, 3 plays, 75 yards. So you're like, oh, well, yeah, they're giving up a lot of yards. But essentially, it was these 2 drives at the end of the half that just chewed up yards. So in those plays, 7 plays for 159 yards. 7 plays for 159 yards. Their first 51 plays, they had 220 yards. That's 4.3 yards per play. Kansas was 4.3 yards per play for the game. So that's a good indication of they were making them earn it. They just weren't making the play. And I did want to spend a little bit of time on that defensive production. Kansas defense ended up with 4 sacks, 7 tackles for loss, a touchdown, and 4 pass defense. Yes, they played a lot of defense. Yes, they should have got off the field. But let's just talk about some of the competitive edge, fire, some of the things that we saw that we really, really liked. I think there was a lot to like. You talked about Jalen Todd with the 4th down incompletion. He was ultra competitive. The defensive tackles, they were continuously making plays. Guys on the edge were making plays. We talked a bit about those 2 inside linebackers that were dominant. Austin Alexander, you saw they had their eye on him, you know, because it's a tough game on the road. It's an SEC game. But, you know, you talked about depth. How nice is it to have a guy like DJ Graham, you know, who played at OU, to come off the bench, a 6-year guy that you can just trust and leave out there. And he was awesome. Just talk about some of the individual performances you liked on defense that substantiated the production that we saw.
Yeah. Like I said, you know, it starts in the middle. You know, he's the main guy that stood out for me.
Yeah.
I thought the corners played solid. Zero's Alexander, right?
Yes.
I'm still getting familiar, you know, with this NI and transfer portal and coming to the show. I'm starting this show, you know, I got to get better with the names for sure. But you know, that guy right there in the right corner's been solid. Left corner's been solid. Is that the kid from Detroit?
Yeah, that's Jalen Todd, 26.
Yeah, Todd. Yeah. I mean, I can't remember how many catches he gave up in that game.
It wasn't much.
Yeah, it wasn't much. You know, they didn't say his name too much, you know. But he's playing aggressive. He has great size, and our corners, like I said, they weren't the main issue. The main issue is in the middle, right? Yeah. And then being able to fill in those alleys, and you know, they're killing us on these flat routes, routes, and then getting yacked. Right, not having we're playing man. We're not having good eyes on the tight end, and we're losing the tight ends. Right, so just things like that. But you know, I think the corners are definitely standing out. Trey, what's his last name again?
Trey
I don't remember.
Lathan. Yeah, Lathan. Yeah, Trey
Trey
Lathan.
Lathan is
Yeah,
balling.
yeah.
The D line is playing solid, and as long as we can continue to clean up, like I said, it's the tackling, right?
Yeah.
It's really not that much. Learning, and what we're going to go over, we're going to break down some of the coverages, a couple big plays. They clean some of this coverage alignment things, little things that can help them for the rest of the year.
Okay, we're going to get right into that. I want you to coach us up and tell us what you saw and how they can improve heading into future matchups starting with West Virginia on September 20th. But what were some things that caught your eye that maybe surprised you on a rewatch that you didn't quite notice? Something that you're optimistic about moving forward for this team?
Yeah. I'm optimistic about the receivers. I thought they could get
Hmm.
open, and can beat man to man, and they proved it. We just got to find a way to get those guys the ball just a little bit more. All of them. I think they all can make plays. So that's something I'm very optimistic about. Something I'm probably down about is the running backs. Right?
Yeah.
We need some production out of the running backs. Shaw, I have way higher expectations from him, being at the running back position. So that's something that we gotta pick that up, right? We gotta get
Yeah.
some juice going back there for sure.
Yeah, and I think that I'm confident in that group. Le'Shawn Williams has been dealing with the shoulder. He's number 4, the transfer from Iowa. He hasn't been himself since week 1, so I expect him to return and bring in a slashing style. And like I said, I think Daniel's going to have good games. I think Daniel Heishaw's going to have good physical games. If you watch the rhythm of the game, Kansas was kind of put in a position where they had to move away from the run game. I don't want to say not run the ball relative to not being able to do it, but they had to move away from it so they could get into so they can get into better second down situations. You can't
Yeah,
be in second and 10, 11 the whole game. You're just not going to win. So they had to kind of abandon it more than it just got crushed because there were some opportunities that just didn't work out, but they had to abandon so that they could stay ahead of the sticks. And Jalen was like, fine, I'll do it. And that
yeah,
scramble down the left-hand sideline. I mean, that was an 8-play, 92-yard drive with the money on the line. And Jalen Daniels delivered. He hit that,
they
hit
did.
that, hit that whole shot in cover 2 down the right-hand side to Hanukkah, the scramble down the left-hand side, the dump off to Hanukkah for a touchdown. It was just play after play after play. Being a Lawrence guy, being a guy that's watched the University of Kansas for a super long time, I cannot think of someone I've enjoyed watching more than I've enjoyed watching JD. Just because I've seen him in every scenario. I've seen him as a 17-year-old with no one blocking for him and him running for his life down in Waco, Texas. I've seen him in Austin, Texas, lead an improbable comeback win against Texas when a game that looks like it was getting at like they were going to lose sight of it. He held on for that one. That West Virginia game to open Big 12 play a couple years ago where he was incredible and they won in overtime. And in the last 2 years, regardless of the results of these games, when we've needed him to be a guy, he has been a guy. I mean, there
Yeah,
have been mistakes in those games, but K-State, he was incredible. People remember the big fumble, and it was a big fumble, but he was incredible in that game. Arizona State, incredible in that game. They couldn't hold on at the end, had nothing to do with him. This game, another example of a guy just getting it done. I mean, he's just a
yeah,
guy getting stuff done because there's no reason to, this. You can look at this like, oh, yeah, we needed to run the ball, but they were up 35. They were up late, up 3 at Missouri with no run game. Up
right.
3 late against Missouri with no run game, a team that's won 12 straight games at home. So I thought
Yeah,
JD was incredible again. And I like your call on the receiving core. Cam Pickett is dealing with some injury stuff, so he wasn't quite the impact player that we expect him to be. I assume he'll return back to being pretty sharp. Um, Levi Wentz, number 10, had that really big win in one-on-one to get the ball down to score the
yeah,
touchdown. That was 21. They got a guy that's been dealing with some stuff that's not quite back to health. This Bryson Canty, a transfer from Columbia. I am really excited about him. Big, fast, plays with force. And he's played a little bit in the last 2 games, but he's someone that if he gets healthy, I think can be another person to throw into that mix with a group of
mhm.
tight ends that has a nice skill set. You got guys that
Yeah. You got
are
some weapons.
more. Oh yeah, more catch type guys. You got some more physical type guys. There's just a bunch of options. And when you have someone like JD that can distribute like he can use those options, Chris.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So get into this. I wanted to get into this defensive breakdown. There were more than a couple. And I had to break it down because first I want to talk to you about the zone looks. I sent you a couple things on it, but there were two huge third downs that I thought I wanted to get your perspective on to see like what you saw. There was a 3rd and 7 touchdown to the tight end where they weren't able to pass off 2 inside routes, but they're essentially the same kind of like 7, 8, 9 yard stop routes. And then the 4th and 7 to Coleman Jr., where Lyric Rawls accelerates through the guy, tries to hit him, but he still makes the play. Just talk about, before we get into, the rub routes, which were 2 huge plays they got on us as well. Talk about like why that stop route out of trips is such a difficult play to guard in zone, and what things you would like to see them do a little different moving forward.
It just really depends on what covers they're in. If they're in man, you can stop it with just going up there and pressing it and being able to eliminate it that way. But if they're playing a little bit more zone, which KU plays a lot of, they play cover 4, they play one hole man, and play some zone blitzes. He runs a lot, and but when you play a team like Missouri that's run the ball like that, you're going to be in a lot of times cover 4. You're going to be in man a lot. And you got to be able to pass some routes off with these RPOs and with these tight ends running behind the line of scrimmage, boots and tagged in with the RPOs. You think he's going to come over and block you on the edge, but no, he's releasing to the, to the flat. So it's just guys having better communication. You can clearly see that we're not on point with our communication, especially in man.
So let's start there. 21-6, 4th and 3. Kansas has a chance to really shut the door on Missouri and maybe go up 28-6 at their place, maybe 24-6, but essentially get the ball back without that score going through. They run a motion concept where you're kind of playing a little cat and mouse behind the line of scrimmage. He pops out to the left side. They're able to throw to Coleman Jr. for the touchdown. Just walk us through that, what you saw, what happened, and then what would you like to see done differently on that one?
I like the call, people get mad at the coach, but the call was a great call, being able to put them in one hole. You have 2 linebackers on the running back. What I didn't understand is what the safety's doing. Do you have the quarterback? Are you man on the quarterback? Or y'all running like a zero coverage or cover 1 robber with the safety being on the quarterback? We used to do that sometimes with Cam Newton, so it looked like we're in one hole, but we would have that safety, kind of just spy Cam because he can run. So I didn't know what they were doing in that, because when the guy comes in motion, the safety doesn't communicate, doesn't say anything. And when that guy comes in motion, we tell that corner on the backside he has to move up. So because I'm usually the guy coming in motion. That's usually I'm usually the nickel that's in motion like that. So I would have Talib move up, press him, let me get over the top, and then I'm able to knock it down. So, or I would have, because if you go back and watch the play, the receiver kind of paused in the middle, right? So me and the safety would banjo. If he came back to me, then I would take him. If he went to you, then I would take your responsibility. So it's just they didn't have any communication at all. The corner is playing off in the red zone when he needs to be up pressing in that situation to let the nickel come over or the safety come over. And it's just, bad alignments and zero communication, and that ends up to a touchdown.
Yeah, you can see that. And I know you've been through these scenarios. You've watched them for so many years and had to defend them yourself and evaluate them on film. And you probably saw right away, oh, no communication. This is a bad sign, especially when you're trying to pass off, a wide route. And, it's early in the season. And those are the kind of things that happen early in the season. DJ Graham's a guy that played a ton, the OU transfer, Utah State transfer. He played a ton in this game, but he really hadn't played a ton in the first 2 games. So it might have just been simply a matter of, guys having familiarity with each other and communicating.
Right. And I mean, they didn't do it all game. Well, I mean, they did it a lot when you can say you gave up 500 yards.
Right.
But in those crucial plays, you can't have those crucial mental errors, and Missouri took advantage of those for sure.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we were talking about making the plays that are there to be made. That's not on one guy. That's not on the defensive coordinator. That's about 11 guys executing what's called and communicating through it. Nothing about what we've seen so far would make me think that they don't have the ability to get there. And that's the beautiful part about where we're at now, is that these kind of things happen early in the season, and you want to get tested against a good opponent. It used to be those guys were on scholarship too, but now it's like those guys arrived in the Mercedes too. Everybody's getting
Right.
paid out here. So these guys can play too. So it's about executing, communicating, and passing those things off in some ways that we're hoping to see. I thought the other big version of this was the rub route on 3rd and 10. So it was one of the few times we got them in 3rd and long. And 3rd and long, like we talked about for the Crimson and Blue show, 3rd and long, I thought was a place we wanted Prabula to kind of have to play through just because he hasn't played a ton. So it's just new experiences for him. And I thought that was his most confident throw of the night was that slot fade that they ran on the rup route to Blood against Saeed Gibbs. And that was a huge play because that ended up being the touchdown that gave them a lead later. Just describe what you saw. And it was Saeed Gibbs, a transfer from Georgia Tech, number 22. He was manned up on the slot, and then you had Austin Alexander, number 0, on the wide guy. Talk us through that, what you saw, and what we'd like to see done different.
Yeah, it looked like they were in the same call that they were in the red zone, one hole. And if you look at it, you got 2 linebackers in the middle. The safety is running back to the middle. He's showing that he's over the nickel, but he's running. If you can see him, he's running to the middle. And the nickel's kind of in no man's land, in that position. When you have 2 hole players in the middle, you would be outside leverage for one. That's why I would coach the kid. Be outside leverage, force him to your help, force him to your 2 inside linebackers that are free in the hole. And then you also have a safety that's deep in the middle. So he's making it hard, and he's making his job hard because he's lined up in no man's land. He's inside, and now this guy is running a pick route, and he's already completely out leveraged. He's already killed himself before the snap. So if he goes up and he's be able to put hands on him early and able to stay outside of that guy and fight through that pick, he's already on his body, and the corner can just shade right over. And so it's easy, simple things, right, that you can really clean that up. But really, the nickel's in terrible alignment, terrible leverage, and pretty much in no man's land. And when you're in no man's land like that, you give up 3rd downs. You get and that looks bad on the coaching, right? That looks bad on the secondary guys because once again, it's the 3rd and long, and we're not in the right alignment and assignment. So that's something I would harp on and be able to get these guys right, because those are crucial, right? If I call hole and I call a leverage call, you need to be outside and being able to be ready to play any outside route that I need you to take.
Absolutely. I love getting that expert vision from you because, a lot of times when you watch a football game, and football looks like such a simple game, right? And then, everybody thinks they can do these things. You cannot. You cannot do the things that you see on TV, fans. You cannot.
Right.
It's very hard. And I like the way that you put it. Like, this wasn't about effort. This is about attention to detail. This is about putting yourself in a position to defend a route with an expectation, right? That we're a man team. We could see a rep concept. Like you said, I have help on the inside. I've got a safety. I got a couple linebackers. Let me help myself and funnel them to them. Those are things that this coaching staff's going to identify and improve on. And you're seeing a team with as much talent and depth on the defense that we've seen in years. So I love you getting a chance to give us that NFL eye, break it down for us, and talk about some of those things our defensive backs need to do better and things that they definitely will do better, especially with some of the talent and experience that we've seen so far this season. So bye week early in the season, Kansas heading to the bye week, wrapping up this Missouri game, trying to process the film and improve. You're looking at a Kansas team, to me, that all the goals that they had in place are real. I can't imagine they're going to be underdogs, but maybe 2 more times. They have at Iowa State and they have at Arizona. I can't think of another game where they'll be underdogs. Maybe Utah late in the season, but it's too early to even to talk about that. But this Kansas team really has everything that they want. Everything that they want to accomplish is on the table. Going out and testing yourself against an SEC opponent, a big-time SEC opponent that's a rival, and competing the way that they did, I thought was an incredible sign. And this thing is just getting started. You look down this roster up and down, you're seeing a beautiful combination of experience and youth. You see John Kamara, number 8, redshirt freshman. You see Bengali Kamara, number 1, fifth year senior. And these guys are both out there contributing, playing in some of the same defenses. I think it's been a really nice compliment to add some of these depth pieces, and for Leipold and this staff to do it in such a short time. To do it in such a short time. You look at the the defensive line just in general. Marcus Calvin, number 56, has a huge third down stop, and forces a field goal. He's not on a depth chart. He's not even
Right.
on a depth chart. They're going 4 deep on a D tackle that's out there making plays in the game. It's kind of what you see with the transfer portal. Kansas
Right.
players don't transfer. And one of the reasons they don't transfer is because they play. They play so many people, and so many people are
Yeah.
contributing. Let's talk a little bit about that piece from what you've seen. You've seen the player movement, you've seen the request, but at Kansas, you're seeing a ton of stability. What would you contribute that to based on
Yeah.
your involvement with athletes and what you've seen?
I would just say just the development with Coach Lipo, being able to or have a relationship with the parents along with the kids. And then, like you said, everybody getting a chance, the opportunity to play. He's been able to rotate guys in, give everybody a shot, rotate the running backs. He's always had at least 2 or 3 guys rotating in regardless. Receivers all rotating, receiver by committee, right? Everybody shines. And doing it that way, guys seem pretty happy. And
Yeah.
and having a nice retainment in that is huge, and being able to develop in these kids in your system, right? When you got to reteach new kids every year, I can probably bet that's pretty hard.
Right.
So being able to retain those guys in your system will be huge for the whole program, the strength coach, all the way down, from the academics to the top. It's gonna make everything better.
And one quick comment. I mean, you got a chance to be in David Booth Kansas Memorial Stadium. You got to see some of the new digs in that opening, that second week victory. Man, what was your experience there? Just to describe the amenities and what it felt like being back at that place, and kind of just being at a place that you helped build.
Yeah,
And seeing Harris, across that
yeah,
ring of honor. Just talk about that experience
yeah.
and what it felt like for you.
Oh man, it was amazing, man. Just seeing everything that they have from the locker room, to the, everything in the suites. It's more. It seems like I was in the NFL.
Right.
Just the way the locker room is, and we're doing a great job with being able to give everybody a great football experience. And I'm pretty sure we're just getting started because we're not done building. And being able to give players a real, this is like real deal football. We look at Kansas facilities is, our stuff is killing OUs. Like it's
Hmm.
killing some of the SEC teams. Other Big 12 teams, you got to put us up there, in the rankings with how nice our facility is from the stadium, everything, and guys like that, and also Lawrence is a beautiful town. It's growing, right? It's
Yeah.
evolved and grew, since I was there,
Yeah.
it looks totally different. So being able to see the growth in the town, also, being able to have that real football experience,
Yeah.
I think that's going to be huge for the fans, and the players. It's gonna be a great.
Yeah, man, I can't say enough about how well they did on the stadium. You get excited about something and you have expectations and you're kind of excited, but then you experience it and it's like, man, this is awesome. This
Right.
is awesome. Like even the premium areas, the 1921 club, just wonderful. They just do a really, really good job. Um, so thankful that we're having the opportunity to experience these games and to be in this place and to look at this team. And so thankful we'll get a chance to do that when Kansas starts Big 12 play against West Virginia. We are not going to go over that game yet because it is a bye week. So we're going to chill. We're going to debut this episode. We hope guys had a good time with us. This is the Legends of Kansas podcast. You'll start to see some Legends of Kansas stuff trickle out. We'll do some giveaways. We'll get you guys involved with what we have going on. And we're really excited, and Chris is really excited to get involved and have a chance to be able to talk directly to fans. And this is just a really good opportunity for us as fans. And I say us, me, because I'm a fan. I love Kansas.
Yes,
I love
sir.
hearing about it and rooting for these guys. You'll have a chance to hear Chris every week. We'll break down something on a complex level. We'll hear his opinions on players, on teams we're facing. So this is going to be a fun season, and we're excited to bring it to you, Legends of Kansas. Chris, any closing thoughts?
Nah, man, it was fun, man. I'm looking forward to the rest of the season, and we just cleaned up a couple of our mistakes. It should be a great year.
This will be a great year. I have the same expectations I had last year and the year before that. Kansas by 30. We're excited to have a podcast to bring to you at Legends of Kansas. Thanks for joining us. We'll catch you next week.